I find out whether or not someone is smart, or whether or not this is someone that I can actually fully trust, like fully trust, or I can put my eggs in their basket, or whatever it may be. I need to know how they handle conflict. Okay. Because if I see that this person has handled conflict in the same way repeatedly, meaning they have like one style or like two styles, and this is how they handle the issues in their life, I probably will not trust them. Because the art of war is an art form for a reason. When you stick to one strategy and one tactic, you're not that intelligent, because you're not putting so many aspects into consideration. You haven't understood how valuable conflict is and how valuable overcoming it is. Because here's the thing, survival of the fittest is still here. We still live in an eat or be eaten world. We're still here. However, we have evolved to beyond, going and being physically harmful towards one another most of the time. It's a psychological war, right? It's can you get inside of their heads? Can you go in? Can you make them do everything that you want them to do without even having to lift a finger? That that is true power. And especially if you are someone that is, you truly want to become the best you that you could be, and beyond that you want to climb the ranks, right? You want to go up in terms of power, you want to go up in terms of career. You really have, like, you see the greatness of the world and you're like, I want a piece of this pie, and I want a big piece. And in order for you to get there, you need to understand that conflict is inevitable. And I want you to think of life as a video game. You could either stay on the same level and repeating the same thing and overcoming a very similar obstacle, or for you to go to that next level, you need to overcome a bigger obstacle. You need to become a bigger enemy. Things get tougher and harder. This is one of the reasons why knowing how to handle conflict is extremely important. And usually, handling conflict goes hand in hand, with the darker aspects of psychology, with darker emotions, with, it's knowing how to handle these darker emotions. It's essentially emotional intelligence, which I actually have an upcoming course on emotional intelligence and energetics, and emotions, intelligence, and energetics. And it is, honestly, if I could go back in time and show myself anything, it would be this course, from how life changing it is. And so, to go back to that point, in the sense of, if I want to see if I can trust someone and whether or not how they handle conflict, I also see how they handle conflict within themselves. Because ultimately, our number one enemy is ourselves. We tend to get into our own ways. And often we tend to get into our own ways because we have programming inside of our head. Like, we have all these thoughts inside of our head that don't truly belong to us. Okay, like the things that tell us, like, you can't do this, or you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not that. It's inside of us and it has become a part of us, even though it's not us that has taught ourselves that we're not smart enough or good enough or pretty enough, or whatever aspects of it that, like, that stop us from living life to its fullest. It is still a part of who we are, and we have to declare war on the aspects of ourselves that prevent us from becoming the best us that we could be. Self mastery and this form of internal war and psychological warfare, it starts with the self. Emotional intelligence, it starts with the self. And even within my course, anyone that tells me, hey, like, oh, like, emotional intelligence is knowing how to read other people. Well, if you can't read yourself, if you don't understand the emotions that you are going through, that you are feeling, that you are encompassing, how do you expect yourself to be able to read other people, understand other people, if you're so in your own head because you don't know how to deal with guilt or shame or whatever, anger and fear, whatever it is? How do you expect yourself to be able to master other people when you have yet to master yourself? So I urge everyone to really take some time to study, the art of war, to study psychological warfare, to receive any form of help in terms of it, like when they have these conflicts in their life, and to really think of how they handle conflicts. Do you have one style? Do you go straight for like fighting and like, oh, someone upsets you and you're like, oh, you upset me and you did this, and you have such a reactive response? Or do you have that self discipline to be able to sit there for a moment and be like, I am not going to be reactive, I am going to be responsive, and I'm going to think it once and twice and thrice on how I'm going to handle the situation and what is in my best interest. Is it better for me to lose the battle and win the war? Is this going to cost me a lot of resources? Do the means justify the end? Is my motivation purely emotional? Is my motivation purely rational? Because I always say the best and easiest way to manipulate someone is by, if someone is purely like running on their emotions and they're very easily triggered, someone in survival mode, so easy to manipulate, extremely easy to manipulate. The second person that's very easy to manipulate is someone that's completely rational, because they won't use their intuition around you. No, they're going to rationalize everything. So you want to tackle them, you utilize a way that they are rational, that this is a rational proposition, and they will go for it, even though they probably feel it inside of their gut that it's wrong, that they're being manipulated, that they're being used, that they're being whatever it may be. They'll still ignore it. Hardest person to manipulate is someone that is that next level, that understands, that balances their rational, balances their emotional. As they say in dialectical behavioral therapy, it's the wise mind. It is where the rational mind and the emotional mind meet. It is the harmony of those two that that is a sweet spot. So for today, I want you to take a step back and think to yourself, how am I my own worst enemy? And the second question is, how do I handle conflict? May the odds be in your favor, and a reminder that facing and studying the darker sides of life will take you way further than you even expect.